Hey guys, it's Zach from Team Crimson here, and I am bringing you my other giant robot deck, D Police, or D Policia, as I like to say. Force, 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 force. Alright, so starting off, obviously, starter is Goyusha. It's like the only starter, because of course. Then we got my 4 copies of my baby. So since I am referred to as the Great in this group, I just think that it's pretty sweet that he's also great. See, he's got the name right there. It's great. And his skill is so when he's placed, he gets 10,000 power to the front row, and then he has a superior ride skill. If my Vanguard's above 45,000 power or greater, then I superior ride him. And all that power stacks up. It's the Force Gift power, his first skill, and then he gets another 10,000 power from the second skill. So, super beast card, definitely your finisher, and he's great like me. And then we got 4 copies of my grade 3 backup. He's actually cooler than the Great because I like him better. Regular Dayusha. So this one's a lot simpler. If his power is 35,000 or greater, he gets +1 crit, which is super beast, early pressure. Right from the get-go, I can just get him at 35,000 power and boom, done, pressure. And then his second skill is I can rest any number of units. He gets 10 for each rested. So it's pretty easy to get him up there. I wouldn't say as easy as a lot of people may imagine, but it is kind of easy if you have the resources on field. You can just use his skill, whatever. But it does obviously drain you a bit to do it that way. And then the other skills from some other cards I'll get into just kind of have less power. So speaking of which, grade 2s. Die Dragon, the main grade 2 for the deck. Its skill is it Soul Blasts and then gives my Vanguard plus 5,000 power. So the deck, it's got 2 cards like this, or 3 cards like this, where it's basically, it just gives 5,000 power. So it's just, if you can only do this, if you want to keep resources, you have to basically drain yourself by using skills like these. And then basically you might have to do the resting skill later. So it's just depending on like what your situation may be. If you like have nothing, and you just need to require, or you just need to roll on Dayusha's skill, so like just call a bunch of cards from hand, use his skill, or sometimes it's good to just use a bunch of these cards or cards like this, and then stack that power. His other skill is probably the reason why he is the best grade 2 is if the Vanguard is 35,000 power or greater, he gains plus 10,000 power. So that's pretty sick. Immediately 20,000 power. He's really good on Great Dayusha turns as well because the power in the front row. Then we got 4 copies of Cosmo Beak. His skill is when he's placed, counterblast 1, Vanguard gets 5. So this is another one of those skills. It's a less amount of power, lower amount of power, but again, this power does stack up if you really want to get it there. If you can get it there. Otherwise, you have to kind of roll on Dayusha and rely on him the whole game. But he's just there to help. Then you got Miracle Cutie. She's not half bad. I wish she was a redhead. Her skill is when she hits a Vanguard, if my Vanguard's power is 30,000 or greater, I draw a card. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is a pressure unit, but if they don't want me to get more resources and more cards in my hand, then they will definitely guard her. And again, sometimes that can be kind of difficult considering some of my turns, the Force Gift markers, Great Dayusha, triggers, whatever, stack on top of her. They either let it through or I draw a card. So she's pretty sweet, pretty helpful. Moving on to grade 1s, my favorite grade 1. Die Brave. So this one is another one of those Soul Blast, Vanguard gets 5. But its second skill is also for getting more resources. It's actually a really helpful card. This one is when my Vanguard's attack hits a Vanguard, I push this unit into soul and draw a card. So it's just how, if my Vanguard hits, usually you want to have this on a different rearguard circle already attacked. And then afterwards, Vanguard attacks. If it does hit, then I draw a card as well, which allows me to have more pressure. Either they want to let it through, or I get another card and add more cards to my soul for more skills that allow me to Soul Blast +5 or whatever. So really beast card. Probably my favorite grade 1 for sure. Second place goes to Commander Laurel. This is overpowered. Overpowered. Not his power, but his skill is once a turn, counterblast, and rest 4 rear guards. My Vanguard's power doubles, and it gets an additional critical. So, again, this goes into the part where if you have that resource and you don't have other skills to get that off, you may have to sacrifice some of your units to gain power on your Vanguard and just roll on his power alone. Or a lot of times what I like to do, because this deck has a lot of cards in hand, it is a Force Clan, you can rest those 4 rear guards and then just call over them again if you think it's going to be a final turn, or if you can afford it or whatever. Just call over those rested rear guards and you still can do like a Great Deluge turn or additional pressure. Definitely a really great card. Easy to use, I'd say, for sure. Then we got the Die Mariner. This one's also pretty simple. Soul Blast 1 when it's placed. My Vanguard, when it attacks, you have to call 2 Guardians from hand or you can't block it. So another good card. So if they have, they have a Sentinel in your hand, their hand, you've been like keeping track of that, then it's just kind of like, okay, call this, you have to drop another card. So it just helps feed through their hand a lot more, and that's what's really good for against like OTT and other Protect decks, or even decks with just massive hands. This card comes in handy for sure. And finally, 2 copies of Die Tiger. This one is like my only control card, and it's halfway decent, because this one's another one of those, if my Vanguard's attack hits a Vanguard, push this unit into soul and choose an opponent's rearguard to retire. So I have to choose this rearguard, push it to soul, so I'm losing a unit, but they are too. And this one, the reason it's good and the reason I choose this is because it helps with the soul. It adds more soul. And this deck feeds through that like nothing. There are like 4 or 5 cards that just need a Soul Blast for just power or skills or whatever. So this card definitely comes in handy, plus that control helps me get rid of an intercept or like a dangerous unit on the field, anything. Definitely a good card. I played it too because, I mean, it's just kind of standard for me, 14 grid 1s. And then for my trigger lineup, I got 6 crits, 6 draws, Diamond Ace is my baby, and 4 heals. Boom. So I played at 6-6-4 because the deck doesn't exactly need it, but I feel it is almost necessary to run triggers at 6-6-4, at least for me, in my playstyle. I've had this debate with a lot of people. You can basically run triggers as whatever you want because, like, triggers are super helpful anyways, more helpful, and draw triggers in themselves than most of the time, these being Sentinels, then, you know, it helps you out more than the original draws would. So, yeah, I play it with that just because the hand size, and this deck also plays a lot of, obviously, Vanguard's always having a crit, so it plays enough pressure for Vanguard. I'd say that's about it for the deck profile. So please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.